Where does the notion of Hindu fascism come from?
Hindu Fascism is a term that I learned in a book by the book called The Light at the Center by Aghehananda Bharati, Swami Aghehananda Bharati. Now, he is something of a privileged witness. He was an Indology student in the Nazi period, in Nazi Germany. And so when the Nazi regime had to deal with Subhash Bose coming in, he was immediately employed as a go-between between the Indian troops and the Germans. So he certainly learned the trade hands-on. He had very important experience. But so later in India he became a monk, made himself at home there, and he wrote some interesting things. So he gave his opinion about something that he called Hindu Fascism, by which he meant nothing more deep than the fact that Hitler had a certain popularity in India. And mind you, a different popularity than the, anti-Jewish popularity that he had in the Muslim world. In India, it was a totally different phenomenon. Namely, most Hindus, of course, knew that he was the enemy of the British and so on. That endeared him. The enemy of an enemy is a friend. Then that he had the reputation of being celibate, which was not really true. He had this mistress, Eva Braun, but German propaganda kept that secret. So they thought he was bachelor. Then the swastika, of course. He was also reputed to be a vegetarian. So he fit the image of a Hindu hero rather well. And so then Germany as such had a great sympathy in India, because German scholars were reputed to have dug up Sanskrit sources and so on. Max Müller, like the German Cultural Center in Delhi is called the Max Müller Bhavan. So that whole aura was there and had a certain effect. He also means something else by that, namely the phenomenon of Hindu nationalism. We can discuss that in a separate video tomorrow. So that is now, of course, also very common to speak of Hindu nationalism as Hindu fascism. And so we'll discuss that, but not today. What is now meant by that term is something more profound, namely that Hinduism somehow is the basis of National-Socialism, or at least has some deep kinship with it. And so that is also something you find like in Christian pamphlets, for example. If they have to heap up hate against Hinduism, then this Hitler connection comes in very fine. So that's what, like for instance, Audrey Truschke, a very certified Hindu hater. You see, she seized upon it when Narendra Modi unveiled this statue for Subhash Chandra Bose. So she immediately made a connection. Bose was a Nazi collaborator. And then there is this famous photograph of Bose shaking hands with Hitler. So that's right there. And so that is supposed to prove that there is some deep connection. Now in history there are connections with all kinds of people. You see, in practical politics, you make strange alliances. That doesn't mean there's a deep connection. And so what we're going to look into today is whether there is a deep connection. Is there something profoundly present in Hinduism that shades over into National Socialism, that found its expression even in National Socialism? Some people claim this. Agyahananda Bharati is quite interesting because it's at an important historic crossroads, not just when, as a student, he became a translator and so on, no, but also 20, 30 years later, when India is all the hype in the West. When Maharishi Mahesh Yoga received the Beatles as pupils and so on. So at that point, you see, he also becomes active as an influential writer. And so there he describes the scene at that time where Hindu Fascism also gets a more moderate meaning, but for him also a nasty meaning. Namely, you see, many people who were interested in India at the time were hippies, were anti-authoritarian,